when we were growing up. It was always like this world of all these cool dudes with tuxedos and the go-go girls in the background, laughing, if you remember that show. So it's like you didn't have a choice but to be influenced by the cool. It was always there. Around 1999, I wanted to start doing my art and painting. At that point, I was in the corporate world. I did sales, marketing, real estate. I was sitting in my living room one evening listening to a collection. It's like a little cigar box with some CDs, and it was called I Am Time. It was an anthology of Cuban music, which my dad had given me, while I was looking at this painting that I had done around 1993, when I had no idea that I was going to be doing this full time. And it was like a pop art style that I had done. And that's when the kind of little light bulb went off. I said, no one's ever done all these Cuban themes in a pop art style. And that's kind of like the spark that really got me going. And then that first exhibit that I did, which was like in January of 2000, was a collection of very Cuban traditional things, but in a pop art style. And, and again, the rest is history. That was like the first domino. Welcome to the vault. It's kind of like a speakeasy, but it's for art instead of for liquor, because it's nondescript from the outside. You can't really tell, but definitely when you walk through that little vestibule and you walk inside, it has that wow factor because nobody's expecting the visual once you walk through the door. The coolness of this venue is that the history of what it used to be, where, the Brinks armored trucks would bring the things that they would pick up, whether it was cash, money, or gold bars, and they would pass them through these little things, and that's all still here. The bulletproof glass, some of them actually, if you go through it, I don't know what the story behind them is, but there's bullet holes in some of the bulletproof glass. So each room has its own little vibe. From here on in, there's a couple of pieces from the new exhibit, but all the other rooms basically contain remnants of exhibits past, 25 years worth of doing art and shows and everything. And then there's a few that stay behind waiting for their right home. And so I had to yank them out and bring in here to fill in all the amount of wall space that we have. We have the actual vault with this door that weighs more than a house. But it's where the bulk of the character of this place comes in. And then now, we're inside the actual vault, the namesake of the gallery. We put some of the racier images in here, and then we also have in the corner, you'll see actual safes that they used to use to store gold bars. This new collection, Huellas, which is fingerprint in Spanish, is specific things that I selected that have directly impacted my life or left a life lesson or something that influenced me as the years have gone on. Just to kind of capture the fact that it is things that have left an imprint on my life. And it's actually not size-wise, but it's my actual thumbprint in all of them. Depending on the piece, I played around with the placement and stuff like that, but it's visible in all of them in some way, shape, or form. These paintings, although they have less color than my older stuff, they actually have more layers because, it's a buildup of things to end up with the final piece. But I didn't want, the other ones had more color, but they were more flat. In this case, I wanted to add more depth to it, so I kind of did like that shadowing effect. And when I was finished, which wasn't part of the original plan, it turned out that it does look like it's like a metal sculpture floating. My mom had saved a little sketch, a little doodle that I had done when I still lived in Cuba. I must have been like 2 years old, and she had kept it with all her stuff. So when I found that, and I had that little piece of paper, put away, and then when I started this, I go, there's no way I could do everything without starting with the actual starting point. And there may have been others, but that's the one that's there. So then I just took that little original sketch and I depicted it as a full-blown painting, which is really, like when people ask me, how long have you been drawing? How long have you been painting? It's like, there's the answer, that long. It's kind of like the natural transition or the segue from this, Because the next thing is, yeah, it's called Patria, Exilio y Libertad. We lived and left Cuba, came to Miami at that time, and we were here for a while, and then ended up in New York and everything that stood for at that time. It wasn't only that we were in New York, but it was the process of liberty and freedom. I tried to kind of capture that whole diaspora in one piece. I wanted to capture how much TV was an influence to everyone in the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s, because all this programming popped up and TV as a concept was like a new thing. These images were like in your house, and then you would turn on the TV and all those shows that we grew up watching were original in every sense because there was no predecessor to them. We would turn on the TV and there was all this coolness, because it was like, there was the Beatles, it was Elvis, it was Tom Jones, it was Playboy, it was Dean Martin, it was Frank Sinatra. We had just coolness abounded. This is my second Batman. I did a pop art Batman some years ago, more pop art. And but my Batman was Adam West, in the 60s, and then this is actually me in 1966 dressed as Batman. So, and what's weird about this is like you look at the little date and it's in April, so it wasn't even Halloween. I was just Batmaning for the sake of being Batman. It's funny because depending on who the person is, they'll relate to one piece more than the other. Like some people love that station wagon one because they're, oh man, I remember when so they can relate. The Rolling Stones, James Bond, everybody could kind of relate to their own memories of that specific subject. Things that we may not think about on a daily basis, things may no longer be a part of my life today, but they were at one point, but it still leaves a mark, it still leaves an imprint.